Alright, this part of the video is to show the operator how to step through the wizard program to get the wafer set up and to the production mode. When the prober boots up, it comes up, and basically this screen, you would go to the wizard button. This is the start restart screen. You go to step 1. Step 1 is where we start to create the wafer map based on the type of wafer, the die size, the wafer diameter. As you create this, it changes the screen and wafer map to match up. These are the folders that are already in the system under device files. You either create a new one or you can use an existing one that's already been done. In this case, we have a wafer that we have already created, and it's called Training 1. Where I enter that, it's got all the die size set into it. When we're done with this window, we step to the next one. Right now we're not using loaders, either loader, sender, or receiver, so they're red, but I do have a wafer on the chuck. When the vacuum's active, it goes green, so it says we have a wafer loaded. Step to the next screen. At this point we need to profile the wafer. Uses a capacitive profiler. We press profile. It'll extend down. And go through the step process. When it's done, if you want to view the profile, you can. It'll show up here. It shows us about a 0.6 of a mil error. The chuck flatness spec is a 0.5 mil, so it's well within parameters. Clear that screen. It's green. We can go to the next screen. Here is for auto line. Right now, if I've already trained an image. If I press the line, it would go to that image that's stored. But just to show you how it's done, you go to a spot that you think is a good target. Here, you set that as your target, and then you hit a line. Right now it's in 1 point. We have 1 point, 2.1, 2.2, and manual mode. When that's done, again it's green. Since you're using only 1 point alignment, we don't have to train the one target. We just press next. At this point, you have the option to make linear. And what that does is that is a correction for any kind of thermal expansion, or if you have the wrong die size entered in, it'll make a correction for it so it steps in the resolution or in the to meet the plus or minus 3 micron spec that we want. So at this point we're going to make linear, and what it's going to do is it's going to step left in the X direction first and then the Y, using the die size that's entered in there. Now I purposely entered in wrong numbers so it would try to, so it would have to make some corrections. And those numbers are going to show up here under the linearity coefficients. Obviously in a perfect world it's going to be close to 0. Typically speaking, most probers are going to have some offset because of thermal expansion. This process takes a minute or two. Mostly because I have the die size off quite a bit. And the other reason why it's running slower is because we're recording the images so we can have that spliced into the audio I'm doing now. Okay, that's done. Want to validate stepping at this point. Put the prober in index mode, and you can step to die and see what you get as far as your accuracy goes. Make sure that the coefficients are doing what they're supposed to be done. When this is finished, we go to the next window. It says second reference. So at this point here, we're going to want to go to a test die or a blank area on the corner of the wafer. Any place that's non-repeatable. And we're going to pick this little X right here. That's fine. We're going to set that as a target. It's already found it. We don't need to find it again. We're going to go to the next unit here, which is setting the Z height. This is very similar to the other probers you've worked on before. We have 3 modes: limit, edge sense, and profile. We have a maximum height of 400 mils and a minimum height of 200 mils. So that's our typical operating range. The up position right now is at 200. We have a 40 mil clearance, and Z height set at 200. So at this point, we want to drive the wafer underneath the probe card. So we're going to go ahead and move to the microscope area. It's going to sit under there. At this point here, we're going to enable Z. Using the joystick, we're going to pull back, and if you watch the numbers up here under Z, you'll see that they change. You pull back on the joystick, and it raises it. You push forward, it goes down. It's kind of like flying an airplane. We're going to set it right around 300 mils. We're going to set the Z height. Now we're set. Now we got to set the first die location. So now we're going to go ahead and Z down, and we're going to move the system over to the first die location, wherever that's going to be here. Going to Z up. You would look at this time on your microscope to make sure your probes, your pads are lined up. You set the first die location. That's done, and we go to the next and last step. All right, so now we're at step 8, which is the scrub. If you do not have a scrubber on the prober, you can disable it by pressing that. It goes blank, and you go on to the finish. If you have a scrubber, you enable the scrub unit. At this point, you press it to go to center, and you see whether or not the scrub is underneath your probe area. If the scrubber is not underneath your probe card, then you need to reset that area where it needs to be. That's what these 3 points are here. We have scrub pad 1 and scrub pad 2. Scrub pad 1 on this check would be the ceramic one on the top towards the back of the machine. Scrub pad 2 would be the tungsten version that's towards the front of the machine. So what you have to do is you have to set up a new, if it's not in the area, you need to set up the new parameter of where that's going to be. So if I wanted to move this around a little bit to a spot, I want to say there's my starting spot. Then I got to move to the left a little bit, creating like a little bit of a triangle. Set point 2, set point 3. Then go to the center of that area. Enable your Z. Raise it like we did for setting Z height for setting your probes to the pads. When you get to the scrub height of that, you set your Z, and you're done. And then if you want to try it and see how it looks like, you can go ahead and clean the probe tips, and it'll run to the areas that you're actually doing. Up here is your frequency, the number of scrubs per touchdowns, and as well as the number of scrub per wafer, depending which one you want to have that set at. When that's all done, you go to next, and you're ready for probing. And you go to production menu. And that's another video.